born to live a creative, playful, adventurous, magical life, but forced to do Excel spreadsheets. I know how it feels, and I'm here to tell you that you absolutely can bring creativity, playfulness, adventure, and magic back into your life, even while having to do Excel spreadsheets. And I'm going to make this claim based on personal experience. Now let me explain. First, some context for those who are not chronically online. This meme template, born to but forced to, has been circling online for a while and going viral, clearly because it relates to people. Now, the part born to is sometimes different, but always pointing to an adventurous, creative, playful life, while the forced to side is always the same, representing pretty much how the adult life in the modern society looks for most people. Now, how can you live the life that you were born to live while still participating, because most of us have to, in that life that we are forced to live? Again, coming from someone who lived the traditional adult life and managed to create a life of adventure and playfulness and creativity. And let's add once again magic, of course, magic. It's not easy, but it's straightforward. You, as a creative person, as an artist, as an explorer, adventurer, as a wizard or witch, you have the task and responsibility to prove to yourself that the system you're in cannot extinguish your essence. Because I'm going to tell you that it cannot if you don't allow it. And this plays out on a very practical level. Now I can share my personal experience. This is not business advice. This is telling you the real story of my life. For 2 years, while being an air traffic controller, I worked as an air traffic controller for around 6 years, but for 2 years, last 2 years of my work, every single free moment of my time was spent writing or reading. Of course, I also did sleep, and I did eat, and I did train, but never more than 40 minutes per day. And I'm not exaggerating when I say every single minute of the day that was left available apart from those things, and of course interacting with my loved ones, although I was very limited in my movement, so I spent all of my time those last 2 years at home. Wasn't able to spend much time outside. That's another story. Some of you know it from my Substack. That's besides the point. I proved to myself that I was able to nurture the creative essence that I possessed, that I felt asked me to express it. I proved to myself that I was able to nurture it and explore it while working. Definitely not a conventional job. Air traffic controller is a very interesting job and sticks out of the norm in many ways. But however, I was still participating in that overall, broadly speaking, in the modern adult society, forced to. I wasn't doing Excel spreadsheets, thank God, because I would suck at that, and I still to this day I'm awful at it. However, I was participating in the, let's say, conventional, traditional path of having a job that makes most people, like any regular job, that makes most people kind of resign and put aside all of their creative dreams. Now, as I said, this is not a business advice, so I'm not telling you do what I did and after 2 years you will be able to quit your job. No, I quit my job way before my writing and content making turned into a sustainable source of income, way before. So I'm not laying out the path of how to transition from a 9 to 5 to making money from your creative or intellectual pursuit. I believe that you can do it, but this video is not me laying out a business plan for you. It's me saying that whether you want to make it into a sustainable stream of income or whether you want to just nurture your passion for a certain form of expression or just broadly live a life that is more interesting, the responsibility, sorry to say it, not really sorry, lays on you to find pockets of time or forcibly carve out pockets of time where you will nurture your creative essence, your adventurous essence, your childlike essence, or childish essence. And you will use those pockets of time to sustain yourself, to sustain your soul. So I would say much more important than making it into a sustainable stream of income is you sustaining the health and well-being of your soul by engaging in what you perceive as valuable and fulfilling and satisfying. Whether that's drawing, whether that's taking walks in nature and hugging trees, whether that's engaging in wizardry and witchcraft, whatever it is, whether that's playing ukulele, I don't know how to pronounce it, whatever it is, Excel spreadsheets and a 2-hour commute and very boring work, for the lack of better expression, exhaustingly boring and monotonous work, still, none of that is still a reason enough for you to let down that part of yourself that is asking, begging, please address me, I want to go out and play. I want to maybe play music. I want to play in the field. I want to write. I want to sing. I want to draw. None of the elements of the boring adult life are enough of an excuse to fully let go that part of yourself. You know it, I know it. People love to use their lunch break to talk about how their life would be better if they didn't work that boring job, that shitty job. Maybe we get used to that complaining and it becomes part of the identity where I don't want to stop complaining actually, because if I stop complaining, then it points to the fact that I have some control over the situation. And once again, this is not me trying to judge anyone. This is not me trying to speak from a privileged position, which I largely created for myself. I mean, I'm privileged to be, I was born healthy, alive. I mean, I was born alive, that's for sure, but I was born healthy, with a somewhat healthy mind and somewhat stable environment. So I had many privileges, but when it comes to the transition that I made from my job to living off of my writing, I would say it was more persistence and ridiculous amount of volume of effort rather than privilege. That being said, what I'm trying to point to is the fact that I'm not saying, it's within your power to quit your job. No, it's within your power to make your life more enjoyable. It's within your power to make your life more enjoyable, even when overwhelmed with boring, monotonous, and even exhausting work. Even if it's exhausting work, well, that puts even more responsibility on you finding some joy and pleasure in your day. That's like the analogy with meditation. Everyone should meditate for 15 minutes per day, but if you don't have 15 minutes per day, then you should meditate for an hour. I think you get the metaphor. Well, if your work is so exhausting that you feel like there is no time and space and energy for joy in your life, then you need it more than anyone else. Be selfish. Be ruthless in carving out that pocket of time. Again, whatever it is, this is my challenge to you, whatever it is, but prove to yourself. But we have a wide spectrum here. We have people who just want their life to be more enjoyable, more playful, more creative. And we have, let's say, on the other end of the spectrum, people who have a very clear intention to leave the, let's say, boring adult world, or the majority of it, to the extent that we can live it, and engage in their life of passion. For those people, for you the task is higher. I have no better advice than to tell you to do what I did, even though I never like to say do what I did, but in a broader sense speaking, use all of your free time, apart from that boring, shitty job, all of your free time, and invest it into your passion. Because what are we doing if we are spending our time, our precious time and energy, cursing that job? Okay, this is what I was forced to do. I was born to be a great artist. Do you know how many writers that we today just consider, legends of literature, heroes of literature, titans of literature, how many of them throughout their whole lives worked regular jobs? A lot of them, more than you would expect. Way more than you would expect. Who comes to mind is Bukowski. Everyone knows of Bukowski. He worked different jobs throughout most of his life. Orwell, even though, he was a correspondent for, I believe it was BBC, I'm pretty sure it was, still, he did have a regular job. He didn't chill for 5 years, write a book, then chill for another 5 years and just, roam around searching for inspiration. Not everyone lived as adventurous of a life as Hemingway did, for example. More writers had to work regular jobs for most of their lives. So, coming back to you and me, prove to yourself that you care enough about that thing by doing it while engaging and participating in the, again, boring, mundane life of the adult society. And also for anyone who is still watching this video, for who doesn't really relate to this but is watching for whatever example, I'm not trying to judge and dismiss and disregard our society when I say boring adult society. I'm not someone who wants to live with his head in the clouds. I'm trying to be grounded, I'm trying to appreciate, and I'm successfully doing so, appreciating every single person doing any job. I don't believe in the concept of NPCs. I don't believe, it's ridiculous to think that someone is quote unquote an NPC because they are not an entrepreneur. I find great issue with that idea, but that's now besides the point. Here is another thing to bring up. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the man who popularized the concept of flow. His main book is Flow, the psychology. I think the subtitle is The Psychology of Happiness or something like that. Not really interesting. The book itself is interesting and is the popular one, the Flow, where he lays out the theory. But the book that came out after that is Finding Flow. And I would say that amongst general population, people who are not looking to really dive deeper into the research of flow and the philosophy of it, and maybe use it as inspiration for their studying, writing, and for their educational work, I would say that Finding Flow is going to be more relevant and interesting. And in Finding Flow, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi reflects on certain studies that tell how the satisfaction with one's work is not the primary factor in one's satisfaction of life, even though we spend so much time at work. It's actually how we use our leisure time. So this brings us back to you being able to live a magical, adventurous, creative, playful life. Great part, not great in terms of the size, but in terms of quality, great part of the book is towards the end of the book, where Csikszentmihalyi places great emphasis on leisure time. A bunch of studies are cited. To be completely honest, I'm not really big on studies. However that presents me, maybe that presents me as someone who is anti-science. I'm not anti-science, I'm not anti-facts, far from it, but yeah, I'm not here to tell you how to, not here to tell you what is the most scientific, optimal way to be happy. Rather, I want to point to the fact that research has been done on the matter of what are aspects of one's life where people report the highest satisfaction and highest engagement as well. Leisure time, meaning that is quite literally the portion of our life that we have great deal of control over. Now I know Some people have less leisure time, some people have more leisure time. I understand. Not everyone finds themselves in the same situation. Not everyone finds themselves with same resources, under same circumstances. Some people have families, some people not so much nuance there. But once again, if you feel like you should be living a life, let's put it like this, a life that makes you feel more alive. Can we call it like that? If you want to live a life that makes you feel more alive, you have to take on that project. You have to take on that project not thinking that you will feel more alive one day when you manage to start your business and then that business gets you to the point to quit your job. Or when you retire, especially the retirement part is something that touches me deeply because I'm thinking about my mother. And I'm thinking about all those people who are waiting for retirement. Please don't wait. Please don't wait. I at least know my mother reads a lot, and when she has a chance and when she has energy, she does some work in her garden. So decent amount of full life there, but there is more life to be lived, even with the constraints that we have. So again, whether you are at the beginning of your journey, of your career, and you want to actually make something out of your creative pursuits, prove to yourself that you can do it. Prove to yourself that no circumstances can extinguish your creative essence. If you're someone who is later down the line, who's just quote unquote, just looking to live a life that makes them feel more alive, life that is fuller of creativity, playfulness, adventure, carve out or find pockets of time where you can be playful, where you can engage in creativity, where you can be adventurous. Adventure doesn't need to be traveling to the other side of the world. Adventure can be going to a cafe where you have never been and striking up a conversation with someone that you see for the first time. Adventure is signing up for a dancing class, salsa class. That's adventure. And those things are way more accessible to way more people than traveling to the Amazon jungle is, right? And when it comes to, I will just one more time reflect on specifically creative pursuit. You have to do it. You have to do it. You cannot wait. And I think you have the ability to find on some days 10 minutes of time, on some days 30 minutes, on some days an hour, then on some days 5 minutes, but you can find some time to re-engage with your creative essence, and then over time even develop a consistency that will sort of create the necessity to engage in a concrete creative project. And out of that necessity you will find even more time and you will have even more energy, because the strength of your creative essence will produce more energy. So once again, friends, if you were born to live a more magical, adventurous, playful, creative life, if you think you were born to live a fuller life, I know you can do it despite being forced to do Excel spreadsheets. Stay strong, never feel sorry for yourself, never give excuses to yourself to abandon your creative essence. Always love life. Light a fire in your heart so strong that the mundanity or the rigid structure and boredom of the system doesn't overwhelm you. Light a fire in your heart so strong that it keeps you warm at all times, and go beyond. Thank you.